In this video, I will present the most basic checkmate there is in chess, the scholar's mate. This video is good for beginners and amateurs. Of course, at a certain level, I can only help so many people. But if you are a beginner and you do not know the scholar's mate, this video is for you. In this video, I will also expand on how to get the checkmate even if it's defended well. If you already know this most basic checkmate, this video can still be helpful because I will also expand on it. I'll walk through what to play if it is defended well and how to try to get the checkmate anyway. Because there's often players that will know, oh, it's the scholar's mate, so they'll defend it. But if you really want it, there are moves that can trick your opponents into forgetting that they could get checkmated. So let's just go right into what the scholar's mate is. For some of you that do not know what it is the e4 pawn. And then most of the time, black will play e5. I do not recommend this way, but many will pull the queen out first. Essentially, this is actually not a bad move if you are at the beginner level, because if they want to defend and attack the queen, they will lose their rook, because that pawn is undefended, and then they're in check, so they're going to have to defend the king, and then you get their rook for free. That's not a bad move, to bring the queen out first. Maybe in another video I can show you why this can be dangerous. But if you're at the beginner level or even amateur level, bringing the queen out first can be dangerous for your opponent, because you do have them in a bad position here. But I don't recommend it this way, but you can do it that way. And typically it's that. They may, do something like that. And then you bring your bishop out. And then say if they're not thinking, they're not seeing what you're connecting, then you checkmate. The king can't move because it's still in check. The king can't move this way, it's still in check. And the king can't take the queen because the bishop is defending the queen. So this is the most basic checkmate. And there are several ways you can get to it. The queen doesn't have to go from this particular spot, and you don't have to move the queen out first. You can move the bishop out first, and then move the queen out. And that way, say the knight's like, oh, I'm going to attack the queen. Well, they forgot something. Boom, it's checkmate. The king can't come up and the king can't take the queen. So that is the scholar's mate. Now, what happens if it is well defended? Most of the time, most players, even at the beginner level, will know what the scholar's mate is, and they will defend with that. Now you can't come in. If you come in this way, the knight's gonna take the queen. So you can't come in this way. So I recommend, if you're a good player and you are playing at a beginner level, so they're not gonna know how to threaten you if you pull your queen out, you can come here. The reason why I like this is because if, like I said, trying to think like a beginner, if they forget about this bishop, you've got a checkmate. But if you really like checkmating here on the f7 square, which is my preferred square to checkmate early in the game. I mean, it's anybody's preferred square. It's the easiest place to checkmate, because what you have here is you can do a lot of things from this point. You can come in and they're gonna do this. You can come in with the knight and you can go for what's called the fried liver. They may play this knight to defend. You come in. They'll play this knight to attack. Well, now you're defending, so they can't attack, and they can't attack this. So they may play that, and now you're either taking the queen or the rook. You're gonna win a bigger piece than the knight. You can also even just go with the check. That's also a pretty powerful move too, which may be the better move if they hadn't moved their bishop out yet. So there's a lot that you can do with this particular square. So this is why I really love and recommend the King's Gambit. And then maybe I can do a more official King's Gambit video later in the future. But the King's Gambit is very OP if you like to checkmate on the f7 square. This is now getting more into the amateur play. If you're getting a little bit better and you want to improve this particular checkmate, you know, they're going to play something like this. You play the King's Gambit. You say, take my pawn. And most people will bite. They're like, it's a free pawn. Why not? Now, what happens when they take that pawn is they set up themselves for failure, essentially. You know, I don't know what they're going to end up playing. I mean, sometimes it's different. They'll probably play this. If they play that, I will actually sometimes go and push and make their knight get out of the way. But for the sake of this, I'll just do this, you know, and then they take. And now you can push. They're going to probably move back. You can take the pawn. So yeah, they took your pawn early in the game, but you've got the pawn right back. And now look what's happening. Look what's happening here. We'll just do a move just to show you. Look what happens when I castle. There is not only one bishop looking at the f7 square. When my knight moves, we'll just do a move. When my knight moves, there's also two characters looking at the f7 square. Let me move my bishop. We'll just do move. When I move my bishop, now my rook is potentially looking at the f7 square. And then we'll just do another move. Now my queen is looking at the f7 square. So you've got 4 pieces looking at the f7 square coming out of the King's Gambit. Now, of course, they're going to play moves like this. You know, they're not going to play moves like that. I just wanted to show you how dangerous the King's Gambit can be. But, of course, like, the more natural move to play would probably bring the knight out. You know, say you bring your knight here, they're probably going to threaten the knight, but then you get the fried liver anyway. I didn't even think about that, but then you get the fried liver anyway, and not only do you have the fried liver, they're going to probably move that. I mean, you get the if they play this move, you actually win the queen, because the queen can't move. You know, I guess they could play that. And then you're at this right there. The knight's still defending. So the queen's going to have to take. And now you win the queen. And you're going right back for the rook with the knight. Or you can even come in with the discover check. Discover check. And then you're looking. This is just getting scary for black. There's a lot of things that can go wrong from black. Using the King's Gambit. And all of that just happened really fast, and I apologize for that. But essentially, that's what I wanted to show you out of the King's Gambit. That's just the simplest way I can show it to you of why I like the King's Gambit. Is because you can get like pretty much every one of your pieces, looking. And I'm not trying to take anything right now. I just wanted to show you. You can get 4 pieces looking at the f7. So if they're defending it once, they're going to have to defend it twice. That's how brutal the King's Gambit can be. And if you like the Scholar's Mate, I suggest you work on the King's Gambit. If you want a more official King's Gambit video, comment down below. Like I said, the Scholar's Mate is the most basic checkmate in the game. It's just the queen and bishop. But once you get to a certain level, they're not going to allow that anymore. So you have to start playing with other moves, like pulling the bishop out, and then maybe they're going to defend. You can pull the queen out. If I'm really wanting a Scholar's Mate, what you can also do is you can open your bishop up. Sometimes they won't know what you're planning. They may come here. but now you threaten the knight. And if they move the knight, I don't even see a place that they can move it for it's safe. It's dead unless it moves back. And if it moves back, it's checkmate. If you really want the bishop and queen to checkmate the king, let your bishop come out and just take the knight. Of course, more experienced players are going to see this move, so they're probably going to play something like this. I would say develop and castle if this is the move they play. Just develop, and then castle. And then you can maybe eventually move the queen out, bring the pawn up, either take or let them take, and now the rook is looking at f7. So, I mean, that's the longer and harder version to get to where the King's Gambit would have got you way early in the game. But if you are wanting to be a beginner and play a very offensive game, it's to just keep pushing to try to checkmate on the f7. And I mean, that's just a matter of getting your pieces, looking at it. Whether it's your knight, bring your knight in, looking at that pawn, bringing your bishop in, looking at the pawn, bringing your bishop in to take the knight that's guarding the pawn. That's essentially, if you want to play aggressive, just keep attacking. Just keep doing things to put pressure on the f7 pawn. If they defend it, bring in something to attack their defense. And now I've got to either defend this or defend the next move. So now they're having to think a lot harder. So if you're a beginner, attack that really hard if this is a game that you want to play. Now, of course, at a certain level, this starts falling off because this is just too popular. People understand this. Also, it's not a very well-developed game. Like, black is developing much better. I mean, this is probably the natural move for black. Black just looks more developed. But white still has all their pieces down here, so it's like they're a little less developed. The queen's already out, though, but the queen doesn't really have anywhere to go. Hopefully this video was able to teach you what the scholar's mate is, the most basic checkmate in the game of chess. There is a 2-move checkmate, but truthfully, that's like the rarest checkmate in the world. It's even hard for beginners to just move the pawns out exactly how they need to be for it to be a 2-move checkmate. It just doesn't happen. I've never even done it. I know how to do it, but it's the weirdest pawn moves in the game. Most beginners aren't going to move the pawns that you have to move the two. This I would say is the most basic and probably the first checkmate you need to learn. I take that back. The first checkmate you need to learn is how to checkmate with a rook and a queen, or a rook and a rook. Those two are pretty important because that's like an end game checkmate. And if you are playing someone with an equal skill, you're probably not going to get the f7 checkmate. I'm just being honest. It's possible, like I said, that they're going to forget that something is attacking it, and they may move the knight and then you get it, but it might not happen. So truthfully, the real checkmates come with the end game with rooks. Being able to checkmate with a rook or being able to checkmate with the queen. Trying to be able to checkmate with just a queen and a king is super important. One of the hardest is checkmating with a rook and a king. It's possible and it's doable, but you have to know the technique for it. And if you ever get into a game where you don't know the technique for it, you're going to end up losing. I mean, you're probably going to run out of time because, literally, if you don't know how to checkmate with a rook and a king, your opponent's king is just going to be dancing around the middle until you use the proper technique to get it to the corner. But this video went on way too long. Thank y'all for watching. Hopefully you learned something. If you're an amateur that has already known about the scholar's mate, hopefully this video brought you a little bit more information to help you keep pushing at it. Because just because they defend it doesn't mean you can't get the checkmate on the f7. There's other ways to bring pieces out to still threaten the f7 square, and then you also have the bishop too. And then you also have the castle and your rook lining up and then moving the pawn up to get the pawn out of the way. You have so many options if you like this early checkmate on the f7 square. and it's also just a very offensive opening. And if you like being on the offense, being in control, this is definitely for you. With that, that's the end of this video. If you have anything that you would like to learn, if there's any particular opening or checkmate that you would like to learn, comment that down below and I'll make a video about that in the future. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time with another video.